Hello and welcome to Bits and Pieces, where I bring you some extra bits that you haven't seen in the earlier videos. We went to Spain and we flew into Barcelona from Liverpool, but you then have to get down the coast on various trains. The first thing you have to do is use this. This is the airport train. It's a direct link from the airport into the city centre. You come out of the terminal where you've landed and you'll see a bridge going across the car parks. You then have to go back into the terminal and you go up the escalator and across the bridge, come down the other side, and there's the platform for the train into Barcelona. While we were on our train travels, I saw a train I'd never seen before with Adif on the side. It wasn't even in the same livery as the normal Renfe trains. Adif is the infrastructure company. It's a company that's actually owned by the Spanish government because it's still nationalised the railways in Spain. Renfe run the trains, Adif do the infrastructure, and Adif had this train, so I assume it's some kind of maintenance train. Never seen one before. I'm keeping an element of continuity, hopefully, with these bits and pieces. So although we're back in the UK with this next clip, it's still trains. And the Merseyrail new trains, they said the last line they were going to roll them out on was the Southport line. And this is a picture of a train running out of Southport towards Hunts Cross to show that the new Merseyrail trains have arrived on that line. I went up to Birkdale because I'd seen something from New Brighton out to sea which looked like a drilling rig but didn't. And I had an inkling of what this might be, and I failed to get a decent photograph because it was so far out at sea. I subscribed to the mailing list for HyNet Northwest some years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, when they first started exploring, and so I've got a reasonable idea what they've been up to. One of the things I've told you about before is the hydrogen village, which is Whitby Ellesmere Port, and the thing they're particularly into is carbon capture. So they're looking to capture all the carbon from the industry around Ellesmere Port and outlying areas, but particularly Stanlow. Due to the cancellation of government funding for it, the hydrogen village never came about. But HyNet's plans go on, and the carbon capture is why there's that thing out in Liverpool Bay. They're going to capture. Actually, I'll let somebody from HyNet explain it from their own video.
Starting in 2025, HyNet Northwest will store and capture carbon, and they'll start to replace fossil fuel gas with clean hydrogen. This will set the northwest of England and North Wales on the path to zero emissions, creating and also protecting jobs.
Here in North Wales, we're really excited and proud to be the first cement plant in the UK to be part of the carbon capture and storage scheme. This is really revolutionary for our business.
HyNet Northwest is based on the production of hydrogen from natural gas. This gas will be fed into the UK's first low-carbon hydrogen plant at the Stanlow Manufacturing Complex, where it will be split into hydrogen and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide will be transported underground through a pipeline. Here, it will join carbon dioxide directly captured from other sites across northwest England and North Wales. This includes industry such as CF Fertilisers Ince plant, which makes ammonia for fertiliser, and Hanson's Padeswood Works, which makes cement, as well as other products essential in our day-to-day lives. This carbon dioxide will be safely and permanently stored beneath the seabed in Liverpool Bay. At the same time, clean hydrogen will be distributed via new pipelines, replacing fossil fuels to power our industry, heat our homes and fuel our vehicles. Hydrogen will be stored in underground salt caverns in Cheshire, similar to those currently used to store natural gas, ready to manage peaks in demand.
It's been a bit of a disappointment for the Cheshire Council that they couldn't have the Whitby thing going ahead. If you listen to an interview that was done before it was cancelled, you can see what their hopes were.
We're looking forward to an opportunity to partner with Cadent and British Gas for a Hydrogen Village programme. This is a really exciting project where local gas pipes and homes in the Whitby area here in Ellesmere Port would be able to run on this more sustainable gas, helping homes reduce their emissions and continuing to build North West's reputation as a leader in the hydrogen economy.
Reading between the lines, it looks as though the government now sees hydrogen as a commercial scale thing, and residential, we're not getting that yet. Perhaps it's going to cost too much. But with industry backing it with their money as well, I can see that carbon will succeed. And in Stanlow, they've already had, I think it was in August 2022, a huge hydrogen furnace delivered. And the hopes around the industry there is that they'll be able to run on hydrogen and have their carbon captured and dumped in Liverpool Bay. Dumped isn't a polite word, I know, but it's what's going to happen. Well, while most of us are trying to keep warm in our homes, even if the thermostat's down a bit, we went to a place that it's cold, and they try to keep it cold too. It was Deeside Ice Rink. A lot of memories for me, because in the mid-90s, that's where I had my first date with Ruth, pre-marriage, and met her children for the first time. And we've just been back there, and I haven't seen that ice rink since then. And there's one good reason we were there. If you watch this video, you will probably recognize someone. It's Becky, who was over from Australia, and she wanted to skate. And this is actually the third or fourth time she'd been. She'd been with her friend, she'd been with her dad, and then she went with us. There's a fascinating machine at the ice rink which comes in between each session. So we were at the morning session, and then they drive this machine out onto the ice. This machine's pretty clever. It actually scrapes off the top layer of ice, which of course has been damaged by people skating on it, jumping on it all morning, making holes in it. So it takes the top surface off as it goes, but it also spreads warm water across, which will later set and become the new surface for the afternoon session. That's why there's two gas bottles on it that needs to heat the water as it goes round, but not too much that it melts the rest of the ice. There's some other technology I came across while at the ice rink. Vending machines I'd not seen before. Normal vending machine, well, it looked normal until you operated it with a touch screen. And then to the right of it, a vending machine where you couldn't even see what was in it, and it was one big total touch screen. And I have to say that worked. I got a can of orange out of it, and I paid by Bitcoin. And more about that later. Back up in Birkenhead, and I got off the bus and walked through a car park where I saw a really good mural of a wall mural of the Mersey Ferry, which I had to take pictures of, because this sort of thing seems to be springing up all over the place. In fact, I think in future I'll try and take more pictures of the murals that I see, because some of them are pretty excellent. Well, I was in Birkenhead to go along to Wirral Wave, the local community radio station. Some of you may remember that I got interviewed by Frank Dodd on the station, which was in West Kirby a few years ago. It's moved twice since then, and this is the session we had in Birkenhead.
That's from the latest album from the Rolling Stones. To me, Brian, it sounds like they're getting back to the roots.
It's the old Stones sound, and
It is,
I have to say I really like that one. It would tempt me to actually go and get the album.
And up to now, the ones I've played have been in a similar vein. It's like listening to the Stones in the beginning.
Well, yeah, they know who they're following.
With the technology they now have.
Right, when I used to drive backwards and forwards to Teesside in the 70s, I used to have Elton John cassettes in my car, because cassettes were the thing in those days.
Cassettes, eh?
Yeah, remember them.
8 tracks. Them as well.
I had an 8-track in my motorhome in the 70s, so I used to go after that period when I was going over to Yorkshire every week. I actually got a motorhome and started travelling around a bit, and I had an 8-track in that, and I found that the record company reps were able to source me 8 tracks of their albums that they were releasing. And who knew you could do that, because 8 tracks were big in America, but not so much
really
here.
Came to much fruition here, did they?
We knew someone in the must have been in the 70s that had a record player in his car, and similar must apply, because you're going over all these bumps on the roads. The record still plays, but it must really dig deep into the groove.
I don't know what it did.
And the record presumably would then have quite a short life, because it would eventually get bored away.
When I was growing up in the early teens, we lived in a house which was part of a market garden, and it had no electricity. So we didn't have a record player as such, but we did have an old wind-up one. I don't know why I'm doing the gestures, because people can't see me. Remember the old gramophones that you wound up? We had one of those, with and somebody had adapted it to take 45s. Yeah, not LPs, but 45s. And which was great. We could play records, because I don't know what he did to slow the motor down, but hey. When eventually we moved into a place with electricity, they wouldn't play in a normal record player. The grooves were too thick.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because
yes,
of
yes.
big, thick needles on them, as you can
Of course,
imagine.
and of course, that could all come back now because we are approaching a time when there won't be any electricity because the wind won't blow, the sun won't shine,
Yeah.
and we'll have no electricity. So we'll have to go back to the wind-ups.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a wind-up?
In more ways than one.
Are you telling the truth?
Well, moving on to some more technology, and this is financial technology, or fintech as it's called these days. And what you're seeing on the screen is, in fact, a gadget that stores Bitcoin. It's a safe, it's a cold wallet, it's cold storage. It gets called all sorts of things. And I've been using one of these for the last few years. Here it is. And I keep it in my safe, but on here is the Bitcoin I own. Now, their pictures show you, so I'm not going to show you my particular device switched on because it contains all sorts of codes. If you keep your Bitcoin online, then you're not in a cold wallet situation. Having your Bitcoin in here is like having cash under the mattress, except cash under the mattress gets to be less and less in value as it's left there. There's some graphs that I've been looking at. One of them's the US and the other one is from the Bank of England, and it shows how the money supply is increasing and increasing year on year. There was a time when they used to tell us these figures, the M2s and the M1s and the M4s or whatever they were called. They don't tell us that anymore because they don't want us to realize just how much money they've been printing. You only have to look at the shape of the graphs to see that the amount of money in circulation goes up, and you don't have to be very clever to realize that the more money's in circulation, the less each pence or dollar or cent is worth. The price of the goods probably remains about the same. It's the monies that's changing, but people don't realize that. And of course, then you get interest rates. The government, the Bank of England in particular, they tell you that to stop this happening, they need to put up interest rates. I've never quite understood that. The way to reverse the situation is to remove money from circulation. Now, does putting up interest rates do that? I don't think it does. Back to the Bitcoin. It's extremely secure. I can probably find you a key, as they're called, a public key, that won't expose anybody's Bitcoin, and show it you on the screen. It's a hugely long hexadecimal number. And also, with the device, you get a piece of card that you put in the safe. And on here are words. Now, these words are generated by the stick when you first buy it. You're encouraged to write them down on a card, put it in the safe with it, and don't let anybody see it. Because if you lose contact with your Bitcoin, if you lose your password or anything like that, these are recovery words, so you can get back into it again. I said I spent the money in a vending machine in Deeside. My Bitcoin and other currencies can all be spent. I now keep a good deal of that on this card. Now, there are several cards that MasterCard were the first into crypto technologies, by the way, so there's already a lot of support for crypto in MasterCard's system. And this is a MasterCard with which I can spend not only my Bitcoin, but anything else I'm holding in the Wirex accounts, including Ether, Solana, Polkadot, and various other currencies you've probably never heard of, unless you're a crypto investor yourself. So one final thing I'd like you to consider when you're putting your cash under the mattress is the value of money is going down all the time because of those graphs where they keep printing more and more of it. The value of Bitcoin is going up. I've got a graph for that too. I first invested in some Bitcoin in 2021. It's a rocky ride. There's a certain amount of volatility, as you can see from the graph, but the general trend is up. Now, the reason for that is you can't print or mine. In this case, they mine Bitcoin using special computers. You can't mine any more Bitcoin once it's all been mined. There is a finite value of Bitcoin. It's written into the algorithms that were placed there when the inventor started it in 2009. Now, at the time, you had about 4 Bitcoin for a penny. Should have bought some then, because 4 Bitcoin now will be worth over £100,000, because Bitcoin's currently riding up around 34,000 as I'm putting this out. So Bitcoin, I had my money on Bitcoin. I know it was a risk. I wouldn't invite anyone else to do it. Risk is a personal thing. I was, sorry to touch the mic, I was prepared to take the risk, and for me it's paid off. But then I understood the maths behind it, and I understood the reasons why Bitcoin might go up, and the same reasons that gold prices go up. Because gold has a fixed value, it doesn't go up at all. The money that buys it has a decreasing value, so you need more and more of that cash to buy the gold or the Bitcoin. So quite a lot of different subjects in this month's Bits and Pieces, and the thing I'd like to leave you with is the hydrogen issue, because it's going to be big. They say net zero is important. We've got to stop this kind of thing from happening, all that stuff going in the atmosphere. They're capturing that and they're putting it under the sea in the Liverpool Bay.